Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something really fascinating. We're smashing together two completely different worlds: the gritty, highly physical career ladder of an HVAC technician and the unspoken, often brutal rules of financial psychology. We're going to look at wealth building, compounding, and behavioral finance through the lens of the blue-collar grind. Because, if you've ever wondered why some people work incredibly hard their entire lives and still end up broke, while others in the exact same trade build massive empires, well, you are absolutely in the right place. So let's just dive right in. Here is a quick roadmap for our climb today. We'll start with the helper's grunt work, move up to journeyman and real money, break down the 7-5-3-1 rule, navigate the invisible 50s trap, hit the boss level, and finally wrap things up with mastering stealth wealth.
All right, kicking things off with part one, the helper's grunt work.
So at the very bottom rung of this career ladder, the physical demands are at their absolute peak, and ironically enough, the pay is at its lowest. This entry-level phase, it's entirely about survival. I mean, picture it. You're hauling heavy compressors up shaky ladders, you're crawling through attics baking at 120 degrees, and you're just trying to learn the ropes. The hidden cost of advancement here is literal sweat equity and serious wear and tear on your joints. Nobody tells you this, but your greatest asset at this stage isn't actually your technical skill. It's your pure physical resilience and your willingness to just outwork every single person on that crew.
But hey, it's not just a physical grind, right? It's a massive mental test. To make it out of the trenches and actually start climbing, you have to master the insider jargon. You've got to know your subcooling from your superheat, your contactors from your capacitors. These terms, they essentially act as unspoken promotion gates. If you don't speak the language, the senior techs simply won't trust you. And if they don't trust you, you're going to stay a helper forever. Passing these hidden gates is your very first real test of career leverage.
Which leads us nicely into section 2, journeyman and real money.
Okay, so you've put in the grueling hours, you've passed your exams, and boom, you hit the journeyman level. You're finally running your own truck, diagnosing those complex systems, and the real money actually starts flowing in. And that brings us to a really magical number: $300. You see, when that journeyman pay bump hits, lifestyle creep tempts absolutely everyone. But taking just $300 a month and investing it, that represents the ultimate turning point where serious wealth accumulation simply has to begin if you want to avoid working until your body gives out. It sounds like a small amount, but behavioral finance proves that what you do with this very first surplus basically dictates the rest of your life.
So, what's the best way to handle that surplus? Welcome to section 3, the 7-5-3-1 rule. What actually separates the lifelong workers from the truly wealthy? It's not just randomly throwing money into a savings account. It's the disciplined, mechanical approach of the 7-5-3-1 framework. Basically, this rule says you dedicate 70% of your income to living expenses, you bank 50% of all future pay raises, maintained 3 months of an emergency runway, and strictly invest 10% into appreciating assets. And when you apply this specific mathematical leverage to that same $300 a month, wow, it creates a staggering $580,000 wealth gap over time, just through the magic of compounding interest. It just proves that wealth isn't about your hourly rate. It's about the leverage you apply to the money you actually keep. But what happens if you don't do this? Well, that leads us right into section 4, the invisible 50s trap.
Making real money as an experienced tradesman is great, but it brings us to a really cautionary phase. Look at this career arc. It's highly predictable, yet almost totally ignored. In your 20s, you grind. In your 30s, your income finally grows. In your 40s, that physical toll we talked about really starts to compound. And then your 50s hit and the trap springs. This is that precise, terrifying moment late in your career when your depreciating physical body abruptly collides with a massive wall of looming retirement anxiety. You suddenly realize you can't carry a furnace up a flight of stairs forever.
These are the specific financial traps that literally no one warns you about. After decades of breaking your back, there is this immense psychological pressure to show off your success. So what happens? You buy the massive lifted truck, the expensive boat, maybe a much bigger house. You completely succumb to massive lifestyle creep at the exact moment your broken body is screaming at you to slow down. Because they ignored compounding in their 30s, so many guys find themselves completely trapped, forced to keep working a grueling, painful job just to pay for toys they are frankly too exhausted to even enjoy.
to actually survive this trap, you've got to totally rewire your brain. You have to understand the fundamental difference between merely looking wealthy to keep up appearances and actually being wealthy. Looking wealthy means buying depreciating assets, like, say, that $80,000 truck that drops in value the absolute second you drive it off the lot. Being wealthy, on the other hand, means quietly acquiring appreciating assets and letting compounding do all the heavy lifting, so your body doesn't have to anymore. For those who actually figure this out, we arrive at Section 5, the boss level. So for those rare few who avoid the traps, master their trade, and master their money, you reach the top rung of the hierarchy. You pivot from physical labor to massive leverage as a business owner. Hitting this $500,000 mark, whether that's business revenue or personal net worth, is the great filter. It separates the lifelong laborers from the architects. The people at this level, they're no longer trading their time and their joints for a paycheck. They have officially conquered the financial system. They're the ones hiring the helpers, training the journeymen, and securing a long-term empire. But achieving this brings up a brand new psychological challenge. Which brings up one of the most fascinating behavioral finance rules you absolutely must adopt when you hit this level of success. When you save serious money, tell no one. Now, I know that sounds totally counterintuitive, right? You worked your tail off, you built the business, why in the world wouldn't you shout it from the rooftops? Well, because human psychology and the expectations of friends, family, and society will actively work to drain your wealth the second you put it on display. And that perfectly sets up our final chapter, Section 6, Mastering Stealth Wealth. This right here is, without a doubt, the ultimate flex for the truly wealthy blue-collar worker. The psychology of money reveals a very clear truth. Real wealth is exactly what you do not see. Stealth wealth is the deliberate practice of hiding your massive financial success. Think of the HVAC owner who easily clears $1 million a year, but still drives a 10-year-old service van and wears scuffed-up work boots. They are prioritizing lasting financial freedom, peace of mind, and security over that quick, fleeting dopamine hit of outward appearances. You can really see the stark contrast here. Showy wealth, it is incredibly high stress. It makes you a target, it invites lifestyle inflation, and it's almost always tied to things that lose value over time. Stealth wealth, however, is low stress. It's quietly tucked away in index funds, real estate, and robust savings accounts. It is appreciating silently in the background. It is literally the only reliable way to avoid the behavioral traps of money and quietly secure your legacy, all without the entire world knocking on your door asking for a handout. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. If no one can see your wealth, are you truly successful? I mean, really think about that for a second. The world constantly trains us to seek validation by being visible, but the data, the career ladders, and the psychology of money, they all point to a totally different reality. It might be time to rethink your entire definition of success. Ask yourself, what does real freedom actually look like to you? Is it having that shiny new truck parked in the driveway for the neighbors to see? Or is it the quiet confidence of knowing you never, ever have to crawl into a 120-degree attic again? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep learning, keep growing, and I will catch you in the next one.